Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, as the title says, I'm talking about Corporal's allergies. He suffers from severe allergies and it affects him in a big way. So it affects his coat and his breathing. So in this picture, he looks lovely. You know, for a 20-year-old horse, he looks incredible. But the reality is that normally he looks more like this photo, which is a photo with a horse with very poor skin. There's no shine to it. It's very mottled where it's missing lots of bits of hair and it just doesn't look like a healthy coat at all. And actually, currently, this is how he looks. Any rubs that he's picked up, most of these rubs are actually from him physically rubbing against the back of my stable walls, and the sort of marks on the side of his stomach are where he's constantly itching and chewing at his coat, and this is all due to his allergies. So throughout this video I'm going to talk about what triggers him, how we deal with it, what we try and do to help him, which sadly there's not actually a huge amount we can do, but just going to take you through what it's like having a horse with severe allergies. Gosh, what I'd do to have his coat looking like that right now. Corporal's immune system is hypersensitized to certain substances. His immune reaction runs out of control, creating an abundance of antibodies. Sadly, over time, each subsequent exposure to that allergic substance tends to increase the severity of how his body responds, which is why over the years, his reaction to his allergies has become so bad. His reactions are seen through his skin and his breathing, though his skin is the most affected. Corporal has several triggers and he suffers with his allergies all year round, but every now and then he has a severe flare-up, which quite often means we have to get the vets involved to help deal with it. Now, when he's manic, he tends to throw himself around the stable. His itching is so severe that he cannot stop attacking his coat, and this can lead to his skin becoming so sore. It will be raw. He can often cause himself then skin infections. It will be hot to touch. He might have hives. He is just not in a good place. This also makes him very nearly depressed. You know, he's not to be ridden at that point because really he needs all his energy to focus on fighting this attack. So in his youth, as you can see in the photo, Corporal had a lovely coat and he didn't really have any signs of allergic issues other than pollen. So he used to show more issues with his breathing than he did his coat and his skin. Whereas nowadays, his breathing actually isn't too bad, but his coat is what suffers the most. So he is a happy horse, and from day to day, he's in a good place. He can still school, he can still compete, but sadly, these more severe flare-ups have become more frequent. So we do have to be super careful with any new products that we try with him, and we have to introduce things very slowly. So let's look at some of the triggers for him. First of all, tree pollen and changing the seasons. This was one of the earliest triggers that we noticed in him, in that any time his coat was changing due to the weather or the trees were blossoming, he would really struggle with his skin. There's not a huge amount we can do to help him with this. Wearing a nose net sometimes helps, and wearing a rug when he's out. Horse shampoos and sprays are now a no-go for him. New rugs, I always have to put on the other horses first because I think whatever they wash them in causes him to have a reaction. Some supplements, so I have to introduce everything very slowly. And oats. Oats was one we only found out about a couple of years ago. He unfortunately had a couple of stray oat crops in his haylage because previously that field had been sown with oats. And horses generally absolutely love eating it, and it didn't cause any of my other horses any issues, but for Corporal it caused quite a big reaction, and it was a very expensive time of vet's fees because he needed a lot of help to get through it. So we soon found out that oats was an absolute no-go for him. Insect bites is probably one of the most common triggers out there for horses, so I'm not surprised he has issues with that. We just use sweet itch rug, fly hat. There's not really much else you can do to protect them, and just hope that he doesn't get bitten. Washing powder was something that I had never considered, and when my vet did suggest it, it turned out to be one of his biggest triggers. So it made a huge difference when we stopped using washing powder. Now we just wash everything in hot water. Not great for cleaning, but it does help him out. In the past, if he had a huge flare-up, we sometimes had to give him steroids to try and help him. But even that now seems to agitate him and make him itchier, so that's no longer an option for us. So we are very limited in what we can do to help him. So now it's about trying to protect him as much as possible. So not introducing new products to him unless we think there was going to be a huge gain for him. If we do introduce something, introduce it very slowly. know when he's likely to be triggered by something. So we know when the seasons are going to change. We know when his coat starts changing, that causes him trouble. Trying to keep his environment as clean as possible. But that's pretty much as we can do for him. And really, we've got to hope that that's enough. And while he's still happy and he's still happy to compete, then to keep going. I'm forever trying to work out what other triggers there might be for him. But it is tricky. It's very tricky, and there are no real answers anymore in things that we can do to help him. I regularly talk to my vets about it, thinking, what else can I do? But even they're sort of at the end of the road of what we can give him to help. And as I say, it's all about managing it now for him. But it's very hard. It's very hard, and I feel for anybody who has horses that have got allergies because it's tough. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video.